another Wisdom and Knowledge 5 episode. And this week, I want to discuss how we are in this day and age experiencing the extermination of humanity. Basically, with everything that's being shifted, they're ramping up things towards Agenda 2030. You see, gas prices at an all-time high, prices, grocery prices skyrocketing, starting to skyrocket. You see everything going up. And one thing that you don't hear being mentioned in the media, and the media is not where you should be getting your information anyways. But one thing that where you don't see being mentioned is all these, major corporations shifting to part-time, which is, you know, uh, they're no longer, giving full time to employees. They're doing this, that, and the other. They're expecting people to work 4-hour shifts and live. Can't do that. Left and right, you see it through, corporations all over the world, not just here in America. And they're shifting, in my opinion, towards universal basic income. You comply, you get your income, you're at a basic income level. And why is it that the major corporations are making billions right now, are just continuing to make billions while the rest of humanity is, basically being exterminated, being to the point where they can't survive, so they can't you know, provide for themselves, provide for their families, whatever it may be. Now, you see people across the world, speaking out, exposing this, speaking the truth, talking about what's going on. You don't see it in the media. You don't see it in the media that's, out there controlled, out there dividing you. They won't speak about this, but it needs to be brought to the masses. And there is people across the world who get what's going on and see this going on and are speaking out, are being a light in this world. But we need more. We need this to be the main talking point to say, hey, you know, and you see all these things like, okay, let's boycott day. We're going to boycott all these businesses. Well, then you're still shopping at them the next day, and it makes no, and you don't see a boycott politics or boycott the media. You don't see that day. You should boycott the media every day. You can find out what's going on, through people telling the truth, through other means of, whether it be social media or word of mouth, you name it, rather than the controlled media. But it really is shifting towards, and I'm not trying to speak negative. I'm not trying to say, hey, look, but it is shifting towards, and we see it right here in the day and age, the extermination of humanity. I mean, they have wars going on left and right to wipe out humanity. They have gas prices that are astronomical, people defending the person, uh, that entity, because I'm not going to say it's person, that entity who's responsible for it, Israel, but one of the major culprits, I should say, Israel, responsible for your high gas price. Yeah, it's Israel. Yeah, it is Israel. And when people, when they have those bumper stickers, Biden, and I've seen people want to put up bumper stickers of Trump, you name it. Yeah, I did that. The high gas prices. Why don't you have one of Israel? Yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. And because, they're the ones respond. Yeah. No, if there's no Israel, controlling all of our political spectrum, and I'm not in politics. I don't think we should follow them or pay any attention to them whatsoever, or let them have, I should say, let them have any ruling authority over us uh whatsoever. But boils down to it, yeah, if they weren't, you know, controlling the political spectrum here in America, if they weren't controlling the, major corporations, they weren't doing this, that, and the other, the Zionists who run these things, you know, then I can tell you one thing, the world would be a much pe more peaceful place. Everything wouldn't be astronomical. Everything wouldn't be, you know, you can't speak about this. Nah, and I'm not going to play a game where they say you can't. The ones who you can't speak about are the ones who are trying to control you. And I'm going to speak about them. So that's what it is. But I mean, you're looking at, and could it be the ones working in these corporations? Not every one of these corporations know what they're doing, or maybe they do. Who knows? That's a question that, is left unanswered because we don't know the answer to that. Do people on the lower level not know that they're making it so people, you know, cannot survive or barely survive or, you know, have to script to survive? Makes you wonder, are they just unknowing? Are they just brain it? Do they not comprehend that people actually need, you know, uh, certain things, income, certain things to survive? Do they not comprehend that? Are they just inhumane? Who knows? You know, one thing I do know is that, you know, it really makes a big difference when you're out there and you're sharing content, you're doing, this, that, and the other to expose the lies, to expose what's really going on in the world because, we as humans are called to stand up. We're called to stand up against the BS. We're called to stand up and be a light. We're called to stand up for all of humanity, in my opinion. When you see things that aren't right, when you see, you know, things that are going on where it's like, nah, this isn't adding up. This isn't, right. And I don't know about you, but as someone who gets what's going on in the world, it's so obvious when you see things transpiring. You're like, oh, that's unfolding before our eyes in society, in life, and work, you name it. Because you understand, you have a grasp, you've seen what's happened in the past, you've seen what the so-called rulers are shifting towards. You know, when you look at organizations like the World Economic Forum, UN Agenda 2030, and what they want for you, you will own nothing, you will be happy. And it's like, no. And there's so many people who are like, you know, uh, no, I'm not. And they know about, what their plans are. And then there's so many people who just don't care, who just maybe they don't know or they're just careless and like that could never happen. And it's like it's unfolding before our eyes. What do you mean it could never happen? So uh but as someone who is seeing this unfold, how do we counteract it? We speak out, we be a light, we expose what's going on, we speak truth, we educate others, say, hey, look, this is what's going on, you know, that we're called to be a light, we're called to stand against this, we're called to stand up for all of humanity, that we are the difference makers. We heavily outnumber the ruling class trying to rule over us. And this is not something that you can vote your way out of. People are like, I want to vote my way. Nah, you can't play that game. You can't. No, that's not what we as humans were put on Earth to do. No, we're not. So you gotta be a light. You gotta be speaking truths out there, spreading the word, like, and saying, look, this is what's going on. This is who's responsible. This is why it's going on. And then it's like, when they look at, and it's like you gotta encourage people to do the research of their own. Tell them to look up, universal basic income, Agenda 2030, things like that, and they keep on, they'll change the name to Agenda 2030 to something else to fit their liking, say, no, no, Agenda 2030 never happened and all this stuff. And, you know, it's unfolding before our eyes. You see things left and right. And to us, it's so obvious, it's so true, we're just like, yeah, we're not surprised when things come out, and things are happening around the world. We're not surprised one bit because we knew this was part of the plan, So how do we counteract their plans? We expose as much as possible. We speak the truth. We say, hey, look, this is what they want, And it's funny because I just, as someone who gets what's going on in the world, I just stumble upon things, And I was watching 80s TV show Newhart just out of the, just decided to throw it on. It was a episode that was one of the first episodes of the 80s TV shows. And what were they talking about? It was a city council meeting in their small Vermont town, and they were voting to, uh, you know, about Israel occupying a country. Go figure. Yeah. And they were exposing that, and go figure, So that's nothing new what the nation state of Israel is doing, you know? And they're over there acting like, why should everyone hate us? And I think I don't even know if they are. I don't know. I don't think they care that everyone across the world hates, not the people, but the nation state of Israel and what they're doing. So that yeah, I don't think they care because they obviously know that they're, one of the most disliked around, in the world. So they don't even care, So, but one thing that you should care about is humanity and what's happening. And you see it in society. You see people acting inhumane towards the rest of humanity, and it's like so. And then they're wondering, hey, it's like then they'll walk into the store and be like, hey, I wonder why there's no help. I wonder why it's no, and they're like. Well, they're shifting towards AI. You're treating the humans that are there like crap. And I've seen it left and right. You know, when you're out in public, you're seeing people, and I'm not saying everyone, there's a lot of people who still stand for humanity, are very kind-hearted, but you see people just being inhumane and going far as, oh, I'm gonna complain about this. I'm gonna complain about this, that, and the other, this worker, that worker, uh, because, I think I'm entitled, I should do this, and it's like, you're responsible for humanity being wiped out, via, people not being able to get hours to survive, people not being able to do this and that, corporations shifting towards AI because they don't feel that they need people, you know, you name it. You know, never did I think in this day and age that I'd be in a society that is like this, where your own fellow citizens are, coming after you. They really are. It's really, when you break it down, they're coming after you. And it's like, yeah, I don't get it. And I know there's a ton of p good people out there, a ton of great people who, see what's going on. They're disgusted. They stand for the right things. They stand for, humanity. They can comprehend what's going on. But then there's so many people that are, sucked into this, that, and the other, whether it be politics, the media spin on things, you name it, that, hey, they are taking part in what I refer to as the extermination of humanity. Really is, you know? So we need to be a light. We need to be vocal. We need to continue to, speak out and bring truth to it because, you know, this what is unfolding before our very eyes is not going anywhere. It's continuing. They're ramping things up. They're, you know, following through with a scripted plan, and it's not for the greater good of humanity, it's for the greater good of them and the greater good of the super wealthy and the super elite, you know, and they want humanity basically enslaved or, whatever it may be. So we, see what's going on. And we're like, no, we're not participating in you trying to enslave us. We're speaking out, we're exposing, and there's so many people exposing what's going on, and so many people out there being speaking the truth, and it's not, we're not going anywhere. We are continuing to speak the truth, to be a light, to standing up to, you know, uh, exposing their plans for the world and for humanity. Because, you know, we are going to fight tooth and nail against their plans and their agendas and, stomp out their plans and agendas because we're called to. We're pro-humanity. We care about humanity. We care about life. We care about, all of humanity. We're sick of a conquer and divide game, so we have a voice, we have a light, we have and there's people, who you know, who follow my account from all over the world, who, listen to my podcast episodes from all over the world. So if I can reach the masses, then you can, then, everyone can. And there is so many people connecting across the world with what's going on because of what's going on, saying, hey, you know, uh, we we'll take a stand together, we will be a light in this dark world. We will say, hey, no, we don't support wars. We don't support, funding of genocides. We don't support billion-dollar gas prices. We don't support billion-dollar food prices. We don't support, people not being able to have a living wage. We don't stand for universal basic income. We don't want that, We want, you know, uh, just and we stand for humanity and humanity's right to thrive across this world. And that is what we will, stand for life, for peace, for truth, for uh, you know, exposing what's going on and, sharing the truth across the world, you know? So much love to everyone who is taking a stand, who does get what's going on. And to those who, maybe do not fully comprehend my message or do not get what's going on, do your research. Look up things like Agenda 2030, Universal Basic Income. Look at what's going on, uh, and continue, to speak truth, continue to live your life, enjoy your life, and do what you want to do with your life, and, you know, expose what is going on, expose the evil that's going on, because, we're called to expose the evil. We're not called to be sucked into a cult of divide and conquer, this, that, and the other. I support this. You know, uh, no, you know, we massively outnumber the ones trying to, brainwash us, rule over us, indoctrinate our minds. No, we're free thinkers. We can fully comprehend for ourselves, and we can decipher the truth for ourselves. And that's what it takes, hands down. That is what it takes. And we're going to continue to do what it takes to survive, to be, alive and well in this world, because we have the power, to be a light in this world and to stand against everything that they are shoving down our throats, because they are at an alarming rate. So. you know, we will, prevail. We will continue to stand against this. And much love to everyone across the world who's hearing this message, who's taking a stand, who is maybe just starting to wake up and saying, "Hey, things don't add up, things aren't right." That's what it takes. More and more people waking up, more and more people, seeing the truth. And, with what they are doing, we must be the solution, find ways to counteract this because humanity is called to thrive. Humanity is called to take a stand against this. So much love to everyone from across the world. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe and share these podcast episodes out wherever you may be listening. Comment, you name it, because we are the light that this world so desperately needs. So much love. And, for Wisdom Knowledge 5, I am Mark. I do these podcast episodes. I also interview people from all over the world who are, taking a stand for humanity, who gets what's going on in the world, who has a fascinating life, they share their life, you name it. So much love to everyone across the world. Keep the peace, stand for truth, and that is what it takes.